Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to take a closer look at those sources you provided, specifically those really powerful chapters from Lao. She's classic, Rickshaw Boy.
That's right.
You asked us to really unpack Shangzi's journey, and we're going to use your notes to try and reveal those hidden, often quite heartbreaking depths of human experience within those pages.
Absolutely. We're diving deep, really deep into chapters 21 through 24 of Rickshaw Boy. And these, well, they're not just pages in a book, are they?
No, not at all.
They're a vivid, almost unflinching look into the human spirit. It's resilience, sure, but also its eventual tragic erosion when faced with just relentless societal pressure.
Yeah, it's brutal.
What we see here isn't just one character's decline. It's more like a mirror reflecting these crushing forces that can break even, the most determined people.
Exactly. And our source material, it traces these final, really agonizing stages of Zhangzi's journey. It details his descent from this, well, aspiring, strong-willed young guy
Full of hope initially.
to this cynical, degraded shadow of who he was. So our mission here for this deep dive is to unpack the complex forces, the internal stuff, the external pressures that all add up to this tragic transformation. We'll look at how these little moments of hope, these flickers, just get systematically crushed, how moral lines shift, how they blur under pressure.
And how the very fabric of a person, their being, can just unravel when dignity, when self-worth are stripped away bit by bit.
It raises that central question, doesn't it? What really happens when the supposedly iron-willed are just systematically broken down?
Yeah, and this is where it gets really devastating. We see it play out in excruciating detail.
Okay, so let's kick things off with chapter 21. It starts us right in the middle of what seems like, well, a pretty minor domestic dispute on the surface.
Right? Just a household argument.
But as we'll see, it quickly blows up into this powerful microcosm of all the societal pressures, the class dynamics that are just defining Shangzi's world. It opens in the Xia household, and Mrs. Xia is just relentlessly laying into her maid, Yang Ma.
Yang Ma, who's from the countryside.
Right, and it's all over a broken flower pot. Seems trivial.
But it's anything but trivial, isn't it? This seemingly small thing, it acts as this catalyst. It throws these deep-seated class dynamics and that huge gap between rural and urban life in Beijing back then into really sharp relief. Yang Ma, coming from the countryside, she genuinely doesn't get why Mrs. Xia is so upset about a flower pot. For her, it's just an accident. A broken pot is a broken pot.
Yeah, no big deal to her.
But her pride, that's different. That's valuable to her. And it's deeply wounded by Mrs. Xia's constant, crude nagging. It's a clash of values, really, not just about the object itself.
That's a really key point. The source material emphasizes Mrs. Xia's nagging, right? It paints it as this relentless psychological thing. She calls Yang Ma her rustic and wild, basically.
Yeah, a nasty put down about her background.
Totally derogatory. And Yang Ma, she's pushed too far. After enduring all this verbal abuse, she just snaps. And the insult she throws back, it's devastatingly crude. Hugely offensive in that context. She calls Mrs. Xia and Sai Kane a whore.
And she adds that graphic detail, ridden by 1,000, touched by 10,000, just brutal.
Unbelievably harsh.
And the result is immediate, utterly catastrophic for Yang Ma. She's fired on the spot, gone.
Instantly.
And this incident, even though it's about the maid, it immediately shows how precarious life was for domestic servants. Disposable, really. Their livelihoods just hanging by a thread. Any hint of insubordination, especially an insult like that, means instant dismissal. And this whole explosive interaction, even with Shangzi just watching, it sets this crucial tone. It foreshadows the shifting moral landscape that's going to shape his own view.
Definitely. It forces him to see the raw, brutal reality of survival, where dignity is often just a luxury you can't afford.
Exactly.
And that leads us straight into this really profound shift inside Zhangzi. This idea the book keeps coming back to, the Karman's rut. That rut.
Shangzi watches this whole vicious argument unfold, but he stays completely silent. Doesn't intervene. He gets it, It's futile to get involved in what he sees as women's quarrels, especially when they've escalated like this.
He processes it all with this cold pragmatism. He knows Yang Ma's dismissal is inevitable after that insult, no question.
And here's where his internal change really comes into focus. He doesn't just think about Yang Ma's fate. He starts thinking about his own.
Yeah, he anticipates his own dismissal.
He figures, logically, Mrs. Xia wouldn't keep a servant, and him who now knows her history, her past.
Right, her past as a prostitute. He knows too much.
But the really striking thing is, he doesn't seem worried. Not at all. The text says his past experiences, that whole cycle of getting hired, fired, hope, disappointment, it's made him cold to it, something that would have terrified him before.
It's a huge internal shift, isn't it? That early Xiangzi, the idealistic one with the strong moral compass, the guy who saved every penny for his rickshaw, guarded his reputation.
Yeah, that guy's vanishing. He's eroding. He's not the man who cared so much about saving face or keeping up appearances anymore. His experiences have just relentlessly pushed him into what the text calls the Carmen's rut, where that common, pragmatic, almost nihilistic behavior of the other Carmen, seeking convenience, instant gratification, giving up on self-improvement, that becomes his normal.
It really makes you ask, is this cold indifference a sign of, like, maturity forced on him by a harsh world? Or is it just a descent into cynicism?
It's a tough question. The text quotes his internal thought, and it's so revealing. Since his own efforts and self-restraint had failed, the behavior of others must be reasonable. He had no choice but to be a Carmen, whether he wanted to or not. Being different was impossible.
Wow. So it's not really a choice.
No, it feels like defeat. He's not choosing indifference. He's being beaten into it. He's concluded that virtue, hard work, they're meaningless in a system designed to crush you.
And just when you think he's settling into this rut, the story throws this curveball, this whole alluring trap scenario with Mrs. Xie.
Right, completely unexpected.
He expects to be fired. But instead, after Yang Le leaves, Mrs. Xie becomes weirdly cordial to him, starts doing her own cooking, asking him to buy vegetables, even tells him how to peel and wash them.
And the setup is what's fascinating. It creates this almost intimate situation. She deliberately gets them working side by side in the kitchen, talking to him.
And the description of her is really specific, isn't it? Designed to convey something sensual, but ambiguous. She's wearing that pink sanitary garment, blue trousers, those white embroidered slippers.
And the perfume. The text makes a point of it, saying it's strong, like fragrant flowers, enticing bees and butterflies. It's not subtle. It's like a direct assault on his defenses.
Yeah, and this is where Gangxi's internal struggle just explodes. Despite that deep-seated fear of women, mostly from Hunyu,
his trauma with Hunyu,
he finds himself undeniably drawn to Mrs. Xie. He even admits she's way more attractive than Hunyu. The source calls his internal conflict a malaria-like fever, hope and fear swirling together.
He's constantly wondering, is she making advances? Especially with her hanging around the kitchen, that strong perfume.
He even has that terrifying thought. If she was willing, he couldn't refuse.
Which shows how much his willpower has crumbled. He's not the disciplined guy anymore. He's vulnerable, desperate maybe for any kind of comfort or pleasure, even if it's dangerous. His usual defenses are just gone.
But just as his fantasies are peaking, just reaching this fever pitch, bang, the illusion shatters.
Reality hits hard.
Mrs. Xie just switches. Her tone becomes totally practical, matter of fact. Tells him to clean the dishes, buy groceries, and then asks if he knows any housemaids because she needs one fast.
Oof, that kills it.
Instantly. And his perception flips immediately. That pink garment that seemed so alluring, now it's just simple and clean.
The whole flirtation, real or imagined, just evaporates. His romantic ideas aren't just crushed, they're pulverized. It leads to this deep disappointment, shame, and this awful realization of his own degradation.
Yeah, he sees himself not just as lacking willpower, but as a bad person for even thinking those things.
It's a harsh moment of self-awareness, but also a dark sign of him unraveling, right? That immediate feeling of meaninglessness, the chain smoking.
And that really chilling fantasy he has, just for a second, about harming Mr. Xie, pulling the rickshaw wildly to injure him.
Wow. That shows the depth of his resentment, doesn't it? Against the whole system Mr. Xie represents, the system that's robbed him.
It makes you wonder, was Mrs. Xie playing games? Or was it all in Jiangxi's head?
The ambiguity just adds to his torment, I think. But whatever her intention, the effect on Jiangxi is corrosive.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Which leads to the chapter's end, the onset of despair and sickness. His psychological collapse becomes physical.
Right. After another brief encounter, she offers him chestnuts. Again, in the pink garment, she smiles at him in the mirror. And in that smile, he sees Hunyu.
Oh, God. A younger, beautiful Hunyu.
And that vision just paralyzes him. Courage, hope, fear, caution, all gone. Just leaves, as the text says, a puff of hot air. He's completely deflated. His will is just gone.
It's such a low point. Seeing Hunyu, his tormentor, in Mrs. Xie's smile. It's like a total psychological surrender to his past trauma, his present degradation.
And the physical result comes the very next night. He goes back to the stable, confesses to the other Carmen. He's impotent.
Can't urinate anymore.
A literal and symbolic loss of everything, his strength, his control.
And the reaction of the other Carmen is grimly fascinating, isn't it? No shame, just sympathy. They immediately start sharing their own stories of STDs.
Normalizing it.
Totally. This source mentions young guys who bought the disease, older ones who just picked it up. It shows how harsh their reality is. These things aren't exceptions. They're just part of the life.
And Shangzi, he doesn't fight it. He just adopts this attitude of complete indifference to his own body.
Spends money on useless remedies, but basically accepts it. His thought says it all. If life is bitter to the end, what does the body matter?
It's not just weariness anymore. It's full-on nihilism. My body doesn't matter.
And that collapse leads directly to the new Shangzi.
Oh.
Lazy, self-pitying, aggressive. The physical change is visible too, right? Slumped shoulders, drooping mouth, always smoking.
Yeah.
His old discipline is just gone, replaced by defiance, needing immediate gratification, even if it's destructive.
His justification is chillingly simple. Why strive when it never did any good? His mantra becomes, did being strong-willed ever do any good?
It's a crucial turning point. What happens when society just keeps punishing virtue? Maybe you find some twisted power in breaking the rules, rejecting everything you once valued.
For sure. And that new philosophy quickly turns into deep self-pity and this cold selfishness. He won't lend money, puts his own comfort first, even for small things.
And then the aggression, which is shocking for the Shangzi we knew.
Right. Glaring at people, picking fights, damaging other rickshaws. Finding this grim satisfaction in it, the source describes him enjoying the violence, seeing his strength smash into others' flesh.
It's almost animalistic, a dark satisfaction in his power to hurt.
His new behaviors are just stark examples of his fall. Refusing work, arguing with passengers, deliberately causing trouble. Even getting arrested seems okay if he gets to beat someone first.
He doesn't even care for the rickshaws anymore. Why should he? It's his complete dark immersion into the lowest level of that Carmen's rut. His individualism has turned toxic.
Absolutely self-destructive.
So just when you think he can't sink any lower, Chapter 22 hits us with this incredibly cruel twist, a flicker of hope in its brutal extinguishment.
Yeah, out of nowhere, really, after some kind of confrontation with Lu Saihuni's father, the one who exploited him.
We don't get all the details, but it's a moment of defiance.
Right, and suddenly Shangzi feels this surge of exhilaration, triumph even.
He genuinely thinks he's overcome everything. The tide has turned, he walks differently, thinks he can find his original self. Again, pure, strong-willed Shangzi.
He even sees Lu Sai's misfortune, whatever it was, as retribution, justice. And in that moment, he vows to quit smoking, drinking, work hard again.
It feels almost miraculous after his decline. But it also shows his capacity for self-delusion, right? Getting high on a perceived win, even if it's just seeing someone else suffer.
It's desperate self-affirmation. Shangzi lives again. Shangzi has triumphed. But it shows how unstable he is, swinging from utter despair to this wild optimism he desperately needs to believe.
And that surge of hope leads him to make a plan, a vision of renewal, centered on two people, Mr. Cao and Little Fuzi.
Mr. Cao, who he sees as a saint for guidance. And Little Fuzi, he imagines a future with her, working together, building a respectable life.
He even forces himself to eat those cheap, nasty steamed buns to prove his new commitment. A physical act of discipline.
It's a big shift, reaching for purpose beyond himself, unlike his earlier individualism. Partnering with Little Fuzi suggests moving towards a shared future. He works outside, she works inside, they'll succeed.
And he still believes Mr. Cao will forgive him, help him. Shows that lingering faith in goodness, doesn't it?
And that deep longing for domesticity. A clean, warm room. Such a stark contrast to his life now. He sees Little Fuzi as his destiny, crucial for his well-being, his stability.
He even plans to buy her new clothes to impress Mrs. Cao, imagining them like little birds building a nest. It's fragile, that hope, but it's there.
And initially, unbelievably, it looks like it might work out. The Saint and the new plan section actually starts with this glimmer of success. You really root for him here.
He gets to Mr. Cao's place full of anxiety and hope. Gao Ma, the housekeeper, greets him warmly, recognizes him, notes he looks thinner.
And Mr. Cao, he lives up to the hype, welcomes him kindly, offers him a sign of respect he hasn't had in ages, asks how he's doing.
And Shangzi, just overwhelmed by this kindness, does something rare. He tells his whole story, everything. Village life, struggles, degradation, pours it all out, surprisingly eloquently.
The narrative points out his eloquence when he's truly unloading. Shows the weight he's been carrying. Mr. Cao's patient listening is such a contrast to the harshness he's faced.
It seems to validate his hope, You feel this fragile optimism. It really highlights the power of empathy, doesn't it? Active listening can unlock so much pain.
But that beautiful, fragile dream, it gets shattered quickly and brutally, leading to the crushing truth, the final blow.
Mr. Cow listens, then offers practical, kind advice. Rent a rickshaw. Maybe work for him again on contract stability, dignity.
And crucially, he talks about Little Fuzi. Says yes, she could live there, help Gao Ma, if Mrs. Cow agrees.
Jiangzi is ecstatic, overjoyed, plans immediately, fetch Little Fuzi, meet Mrs. Cow, sealed the deal. He rushes out, full of purpose.
But the search, it's fruitless. He looks everywhere, asks neighbors, spends a whole day frantically searching for her and her brothers. Nothing. No trace.
This is the start of the end for that last hope. That desperate search shows how vital she was to his redemption plan.
On the immediate return to smoking and drinking, it shows how fragile his resolve was, how deep those coping mechanisms run.
The fear sets in then, right, that she might be dead, or worse, sold off. Especially to the White Houses, the worst brothels. It's a chilling foreshadowing of what's coming. His desperation is just agonizing.
And that extinguished hope leads him straight into chapter 23. The abyss of cynicism and final degradation. He's wandering aimlessly, completely despondent, and runs into little Mayor's grandfather.
The old rickshaw puller, now selling tea. And he delivers the voice of hopelessness. A grim prophecy for Jiangzi.
This meeting is pivotal. It just shatters any remaining illusions Jiangzi had. The old man looks awful, thinner and more ragged, bent back, red eyes like he's cried an ocean. He's the living embodiment of Jiangzi's future.
And his philosophy. It's brutal, born from decades of hardship. He just tells Jiangzi, for those who do hard labor, trying to make it alone is harder than climbing to heaven.
He flat out says the idea that good begets good, evil begets evil is a lie. A cruel joke. Individual effort, futile, meaningless in their world.
And what makes it so gut-wrenching is knowing his personal tragedy, losing his grandson, because he couldn't afford medicine, fuels this universal despair. He's seen it all, and it's left him utterly bleak. No illusions left.
Then he uses that unforgettable analogy, the grasshopper and the chains, illustrates individual powerlessness perfectly.
Right. A single grasshopper can leap far, full of energy.
But, he says, a kid can tie it with a thread, stop it flying. Yet in a group, grasshoppers can destroy crops. Collective power.
But that collective power is totally out of reach for them.
Yeah.
A fantasy.
And that analogy just hits Jiangzi like a ton of bricks. It convinces him definitively that his own efforts are useless. A joke. He decides right then. Forget Mr. Cow. Forget being strong-willed. Hope extinguished. Done.
His surrender is complete. Just a day-to-day existence now. Work only when hungry. Why save if it gets stolen? Why strive if it brings nothing but pain?
His new mantra is chilling. If there's no food, pull the rickshaw. If there's enough for a day, rest for a day. Tomorrow is another story. It's a total shift from active striving to passive survival. He's hollowed out.
And then the final horror. Desperate for news, he asks the old man about Little Fuzi, which leads to the unveiling of Little Fuzi's fate, ultimate despair.
The old man, based on grim experience, predicts her fate. Coldly, matter-of-factly, either sold as a concubine or, more likely, given her past marriage, sold to a White House, the lowest kind of brothel.
His casual line, our men sell sweat, our women sell flesh, is just brutal, dehumanizing, strips away any romance about their suffering. It's just grim economics.
But Jiangzi, despite the horror, acts immediately, rushes to the White Houses he needs to know. Shows how important she still is, his last thread to a meaningful life.
And there, in that pit of despair, he meets Flour Sack, the prostitute nickname for her large breasts. And the resemblance to who knew, it startles him, a cruel echo.
He asks about Little Fuzi, still clinging to hope, and the prostitute recognizes her little tender meat. Oh, God.
Then she reveals it, coldly, clinically. Little Fuzi finished early, hanged herself in the woods nearby.
After trying to escape, stripped a client, tried to run in his clothes. A desperate act of rebellion ending tragically. The prostitute even mentions her face was still likable in death.
Which is just macabre. Underscores the total dehumanization. Beauty as a commodity, even in death.
And for Jiangzi, the devastating part is realizing Little Fuzi was strong-willed, clever, determined, tried to escape, but still ended like this. Her death just negates everything he ever believed in. Striving, goodness, resistance, all meaningless.
He stumbles away, ends up at a makeshift graveyard just crying. The ultimate futility of it all hits him. Everything he fought for, gone.
Which brings us to the embodiment of decay. His complete descent. After Little Fuzi's death, he just shuts down, sleeps for 2 days, rejects any thought of Mr. Cow, his old dreams.
Devoid of hope, even thought. Living just for sustenance, compares himself to a starving dog just looking for scraps. Pure instinct.
It's terrifying. He embraces vice. Eating, drinking, whoring, gambling, laziness, cunning. His heart is gone, the text says, just a tall frame of flesh waiting to decay. A dead ghost with a breath left.
Complete spiritual, moral annihilation. Not really human anymore, just survival instincts.
And the text is explicit. He stopped thinking, so even if he killed someone, he wouldn't be responsible. That's dark. The ultimate consequence of losing all dignity and hope, losing your humanity.
His individualism, once his strength, has become his destruction. The source says individualism is his soul, but it's a degraded, self-serving version now, consuming him.
Which leads into chapter 24 and this jarring shift, the city's false paradise, a disturbing contrast to Shaanxi's hell.
Yeah, the narrative zooms out to Beijing in early summer, vibrant, festive, bustling with life, celebrations, markets.
A city that seems to deliberately ignore death, ignore disaster, ignore hardship, hypnotizing everyone with its magic, this veneer of joy.
It's a deeply disturbing backdrop to Shaanxi's tragedy. This city's superficial beauty against the deep misery of people like him.
You see fan sellers, fruit vendors, temple fairs performances, people changing into summer clothes. A city caught in this self-deceptive dream, totally blind to the suffering underneath.
It makes you ask, is the city complicit? Or just indifferent? Highlights that collective blindness to pain amidst the spectacle.
The description captures the paradox perfectly. Foul, beautiful, old, lively, chaotic, peaceful, lovely. The great early summer vaping. Charming and crushing lives simultaneously.
And in this festive atmosphere comes this shocking event, the spectacle of death. The public execution of Ruan Ming, a revolutionary.
Not just an execution, a public parade first, then the firing squad. And the crowds, they gather excitedly, eager for the grotesque show.
It's a chilling look at society. That morbid fascination, the desire for sensation, violence, reflects their own brutalized lives, maybe. The text says a nation used to rebellion loves to watch killing.
They even want more brutal methods. Death by 1,000 cuts, beheadings, finding it refreshing as eating ice cream. A populace totally desensitized.
Finding pleasure in someone else's death. It's a horrifying picture of moral decay.
They're not just watching, they're participating in the dehumanization. Their bloodlust reflects the system that grinds them down.
And then, the twist. The price of betrayal. Shaanxi's connection to this. During the parade, Ruan Ming isn't defiant. He's pathetic, a sick monkey. The crowd mocks him.
But Shaanxi isn't there. He's by a lake, consumed by fear and guilt. And the truth comes out. Shaanxi sold Ruan Ming for 60 yu.
Oh my God.
The ghost of Ruan Ming haunts him now, lives in the money he carries, a constant reminder. And Ruan Ming himself was corrupted too, abandoned his revolutionary ideals for money, vice.
So it's the ultimate betrayal. Shows how desperation, money, corrupts everyone. Ruan Ming abandoned ideals. Shaanxi sold him out. A vicious cycle.
And Shaanxi feels no real regret, just fear. Fear of the ghost. His moral compass is completely gone. Survival, money, twisted everything, leaving only this hollow, superstitious fear. He's a shell.
Which leads to the end of the road, his final, pathetic state. Autumn comes, he's too sick, too discredited to pull a rickshaw. Nobody trusts him.
He becomes a shop caretaker. Sleeps in shops for pennies, does odd jobs for gruel.
Pathetic. Too big to beg effectively. Not skilled enough to fake injuries. Not cunning enough to be a thief. Just surviving. Totally alone. His individualism has completed his death. A living corpse.
He strove for himself and also completed his own death, the source says. A monument to his own undoing.
He ends up working weddings and funerals, carrying flags for small change, wears the ceremonial clothes to hide his rags. But even then, he's lazy, argues over the lightest loads, scavenges for cigarette butts.
No consideration left, no integrity.
He feels no regret anymore. All that should be regretted has passed. Now there's nothing left to regret. Finds twisted satisfaction in cheating people, a perverse revenge, borrows money he won't repay, scams old employers.
Squanders it all on drink and cigarettes, fueling his decay.
He's a living monument to it. The chapter ends with that desolate image. Shaanxi, once dignified, strong-willed, a dreamer, robust, great, now just following funerals. A shadow.
And that chilling final line from the narrator, wondering when he'll be buried. Buried as this degraded, selfish, unfortunate diseased product of society, the dead end of individualism.
Wow. It just hits you. The full weight of the tragedy. His decay is absolute.
The contrast between who he was and what he's become, It's heartbreaking. It's the ultimate insight into the destructive power of a society that offers no hope, no dignity.
The narrator's tone makes him more than just one man's story, right? He becomes a symbol of societal failure, a warning about individualism in a merciless world.
Exactly.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? This deep dive into Shaanxi's journey from strength and ambition to this complete decay, it paints this stark picture of human vulnerability against these huge societal forces.
Yeah, we've seen how fragile hope is, how moral lines just vanish under pressure, how even the most determined people can be just ground down by a system with no escape.
It's not just one man's story, is it? It's a commentary on individualism versus a corrupt, indifferent world. Makes you question that whole making it on your own idea when the deck is so stacked against you.
Shaanxi's decline shows that danger of losing your core purpose, your dignity. How desperation leads to this complete loss of self, leaving just an empty shell.
So, as we leave Shaanxi in those Beijing streets, a shadow of who he was, maybe consider this. In a world that often celebrates ambition and resilience, what's our collective responsibility when those qualities get systematically crushed?
And if striving only leads to deeper despair like it did for Shaanxi,
Yeah.
what's the true cost of just surviving?